Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
O'Connor and Company coming up. Senator Rand Paul, the seconds away. Do we have the senator yet? He's connecting in a second, but let's give you a little refresher course. You'll remember Senator Paul questioning Anthony Fauci during the pandemic. Cut 40, go.
At least 200 scientists have signed a statement from the Cambridge Working Group saying that it is gain of function.
Well, it is not. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain of function, despite the fact that people tweet that.
So do you still support sending money to the Wuhan Virology Institute?
We do not send money now to the Wuhan Virology Institute.
Do you support sending money? We did under your tutelage. We were sending it through EcoHealth. It was a sub-agency and a sub-grant.
Okay, so now this, of course, raised the topic of gain-of-function research and whether this, in fact, was the origins of the COVID-19 virus coming out of Wuhan. Fauci continued to deny it. That appears to be perjury now based on the evidence that we have. And, of course, Joe Biden, on his way out of office, gave a blanket pardon to Anthony Fauci, which I assume also covers perjury, Mercedes. So it's pretty convenient how all of this works out, isn't it?
And I got to tell you, Senator Rand Paul has been such a leader in this issue of exposing the corruption and exposing the truth.
And because of his tireless efforts on this, earlier this week, as you know, an executive order came out of the Oval Office, President Trump banning gain-of-function research, and at least federally funded gain-of-function research. But Senator Paul, first of all, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being the tip of the spear on this topic, going all the way back to the lockdown. We just played the audio of you questioning Anthony Fauci about gain-of-function, where he continued to deny any involvement and deny those 200 scientists who all said, yes, this has all the earmarks of gain of function. So did he lie? Was that perjury? And is that covered on this blanket pardon that Biden gave him?
Without question, he lied. Without question, it's perjury. It's punishable up to 5 years in prison, but in all likelihood, the pardon has, allowed him to abscond. One of the interesting things about the debate, though, is the group that was giving the money, the NIH was giving the money to a group called EcoHealth, and EcoHealth was giving it to Wuhan. At one point, we find an email from EcoHealth back to NIH, and they say, thank you for lifting the pause on our funding for gain of function, on our gain of function pause. So they're basically thanking them, acknowledging that they had a pause and that they weren't getting the funding because they were considered to be gain of function. And then you have Anthony Fauci saying in front of the world, saying, we have never funded gain of function. And meanwhile, the group that he funded has acknowledged that there was a pause in their funding because it was gain of function. So, I mean, this is kind of crazy. But in the end, while he may not go to jail, history is going to judge him harshly. And I can tell you we're not done completely with him. We are in the process of finally getting the records. For 3 years, I've asked for the deliberations. So there was a committee that deliberated, and they allowed this funding to go on to Wuhan. What were the arguments, pro and con? Who was at the meeting? Did they vote? Who approved it? Is there a scrap of paper where there's a signature? We know there's a form. Did Anthony Fauci sign the form? We'd like to find that form and see, because ultimately he needs to accept responsibility for perhaps the worst medical judgment and worst public health decision maybe in the history of modern medicine.
So, Senator, if Anthony Fauci obviously won't be held accountable from a legal standpoint, who will be at the NIH? And I know you've also mentioned and announced this bipartisan Risky Research Review Act. How is that moving along?
I think there are people. I've been back and forth with Secretary Kennedy. I've been talking with Jay Bhattacharya, who's a friend, and Marty McCary, and all these. They are looking at what happened, and they're looking at did people destroy public records? Did people hide public records? Some of it will be a pretty specific trail, because for 3 years I sent a letter once a month, some of them from me, some of them from 5 Republican senators, some of them from 25 Republican senators, some from me and Democrats, but they'll be all dated and they'll be received over there. We'll be able to see what action was taken, and we suspect the action was to specifically deny that these records come over. None of them are classified. They're They're an executive branch agency, but they are beholden to the taxpayer, and it's our job to have oversight. So I think there are going to be repercussions for those people. If people destroyed records, and I can't give you names now, it's not really my job to name people, but I believe they already have names of people and people who destroyed records. They're going to do a forensic look at all the computer records on this, and they're going to find out the people who destroyed records, and we'll see what happens. The president's pause or ban on gain of function is good. I think ultimately what you need is a committee that the president appoints of scientists who don't receive government money, because the problem is before we had people making decisions that worked for Anthony Fauci, but he would reward them with grants. So right. Christian Anderson got an $8 million grant when he wrote an article for Nature saying, couldn't have come from the lab, no way it could come from the lab, while privately telling everybody, it really could have come from the lab. I'm very worried that it could come from the lab. Publicly, he was saying the opposite and gets an $8 million grant. But our committee would be appointed by President Trump, the scientists, not beholden to any one person, not beholden to government contracts, and they would judge this. And the reason you need this is Anthony Fauci to this day still says Wuhan wasn't gain of function. So let's say we have the Trump ban in place, and we get another Anthony Fauci or a Democrat is elected in 4 years. And what if they just say, well, it's not gain of function? Then it's you really need some independent scientists. And really, with the term of office, President Trump would get some that may carry on over into another administration as well. So you have this council of independent scientists. And really, it isn't a few or an odd position. It's actually fairly evenly split, if not the majority of scientists now seeing that this research is dangerous and needs to be controlled.
Senator Rand Paul, it's so maddening because so many people's lives were ruined, continue to suffer because of the lockdown and because of other repercussions. People lost their jobs, children lost years of education. The states can still go after Anthony Fauci. I would think a state attorney, he got a pardon for federal crimes, but I would love to see a state investigate Anthony Fauci. And also, is there value in having him back now under oath in front of your panel to say, okay, listen, pal, you got your immunity, so now let's revisit all of these questions we asked you before. Tell us the truth about it now. There's no harm because you've got your immunity, so you can't hurt yourself. And then if he lies again, well, the pardon doesn't affect him if he lies now. So either way, seems like he's sort of boxed in. He either comes clean and tells the truth about what happened during the pandemic, or if he lies to you again, he's ripe for another prosecution because the pardon doesn't extend to today.
Yeah, he will be brought back before a committee, and he will be made to testify under oath. Before that, though, I need to interview all the people. I'm just getting this information, so I need to interview the people who are part of the committee that debated whether or not the research in Wuhan was gain of function and whether it should be funded. When I have that, I'm trying to get the links that either through paper or orally from those people link it ultimately to Anthony Fauci. I do believe that he had to approve of this. And the way Robert Kennedy describes it is very appropriate. Robert Kennedy described this as after 9/11 and after more scrutiny came in the U.S., they decided to farm this stuff out. So this stuff is farmed out all over the world, including Ukraine. Remember Tulsi Gabbard said that and everybody went crazy? It's true. There are labs everywhere, but there are labs within the U.S. It's been farmed out, and we need to do what we can to stop this. There's also an extension of things that were farmed out that were things that could be perceived and are perceived by many as animal cruelty. The things that they did to beagles in Tunisia is done in Tunisia because they know that there would be an alarm here. They sewed their eyelids open, infected them with sandflies, and then basically cut their larynx so you couldn't hear the dogs whimpering from the pain. And so that kind of stuff we don't do in our country. And just the other day, President Trump banned a lot of that from happening. They're no longer going to just be torturing beagles, which is a good thing. But once again, Anthony Fauci used his power to take these experiments that were unacceptable here, move them overseas. It was the same with gain of function. When there was an outcry about gain of function with people taking the avian flu and making it more transmissible back in 2010, he made the conscious decision, hey, let's send this to China, let's send it to Ukraine, let's send it to the Netherlands, let's send it everywhere, but just so we don't have the increased scrutiny that we have here.
Thank you for staying on top of it, Senator Paul. And I'm grateful, if in fact it's so, that Majority Leader Thune is supporting these efforts and giving you what you need to be able to pursue this. The American people need the truth, need the facts about this. Don't listen to anybody who says, oh, that's old news. Let's just move on. No. We cannot move on, because the next time we need our public health officials to be able to help us out with something, we need to be able to trust them. We need to know that they're not acting in such a criminal way. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, we'd love to have you back. We are very interested in this topic, and we want to continue the conversation, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Great stuff.